Preservation Commission for Thursday, May 20th at 5-ish p.m. We are, of course, virtually meeting, and if we could please have a roll call.
Mr. Charnett.
Present.
Mr. Castillo. Ms. Giselle. Ms. Giselle, I think you may be muted. Come back. Ms. Grayling. Mr. Cruz.
Present.
Ms. Peters.
Present.
Ms. Giselle. Says that she is here, but not able to get a response from her. See if her microphone works.
So are we lacking a quorum for business?
Yes, until we have Georgine responding, we do not have a quorum.
Sorry about that, you guys. I was having difficulty. I apologize. I'm here, present.
So are we lacking
Thank you very much, Georgine. Yes, until we have Georgine responding, we do not have a quorum. Okay, great. Okay, we have a quorum. With that, let's move on to review of the minutes for the April 15th Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Do we have any comments?
I move that we accept them.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, we have a movement to accept the meeting minutes as presented. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Peters.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Ms. Giselle.
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to our regular agenda items this evening. Is there a, sorry, there's we don't have public comments on our agenda.
I guess it's not on the agenda, but we normally would have a chance for public comment. No one submitted public comments, Chairperson Charnett, and there's no one at City Hall. And additionally, there were no people who registered for public comment.
Okay, all right, so only those who are associated with the cases this evening.
Correct.
Okay, very good. We will move along then to our regular agenda. Okay, the first item up on our regular agenda is BHP 07-21, consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by Julie Dawson for a certificate of appropriateness for roof replacement and chimney repairs for the property located at 806 North Evans Street. I would like to make one note as I was reviewing this. I don't think this is Anglo-Japanese detailing because those typically coincide with upturned eaves, which this does not have. In any case, everything else, please present.
Mr. Charnett, we will have a discussion about the eave detailing and the how the roof meets the fascia.
Okay, we'll talk about that later then, Greg. Very good. If we can please have Susan's report. Thank you.
All right, so staff is recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness. This is the subject property. The scope of work entails is replacement of the existing asphalt shingles with a like material. In this case, Briarwood Pro high definition shingles in a driftwood shade, or the shade is called driftwood. Installation of underlayment and repair of the chimney mortar. On the left, there's the existing conditions of the roof and chimney as captured by a drone in a professional report prepared for the applicant. You can see the chimney, the mortar in particular is in kind of rough shape. The roof and the chimney both have, the report indicated both have been affected by hail damage. And then on the right is the proposed shingle and the proposed shade that is to be used. The applicant also indicated that unfortunately they could not find that diamond-shaped shingle as by way of replacement. So all of the standards are met in terms of the certificate of appropriateness. There's no detrimental impact to the historic character of the building anticipated from the work that's been proposed. And in fact, the work that's proposed is necessary to maintain the structural integrity of the building. That concludes the staff report.
Can I back up real fast? You mentioned that finding a shingle that would match is not currently on the. There is not a matching diamond shingle out there or similar diamond shingle?
The applicant was not able to find one now.
I even checked in Canada. They aren't to be had anymore.
Okay. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to the petitioner. And if the petitioner would please provide some comment. Ms. Dawson, if you would please state your name and address for the record. You're muted.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. I clicked on it, didn't work. I'm Julie Dawson. I'm at 806 North Evans Street.
And do you swear or affirm that the information that you're about to provide is accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Please tell us a little bit about your project here.
Well, as you can see, and there are other angles that are in the paperwork that you have that show even more damage, particularly on the west side, where it gets most of the wind and weather and sun damage. The roof caps too. So it's in dire need of replacement. I've been scrambling together the funds to do this because it's about almost a $30,000 job. So finally have that together and really want to get this done this summer before any leaks or any further deterioration occur, because we're getting to the point where I'm afraid something's going to happen. So I'd like to get it done before that. And I was always told it was Anglo-Japanese. So I think you'll see a little bit of a kick in that corners up on that upper section of the roof, and the food dogs would kind of indicate that. So I'm hoping.
I didn't see food dogs, so I could be wrong about that.
There are 57 of them. You should come look sometime. They're awesome. They have purple tongues.
Okay. I see the swooped edges, but I did not see the food dogs. Okay, the food dogs make me rethink, Greg. We may not have to have much of a discussion.
Yeah,
Hey,
they're
Greg.
beautiful brackets. They're incredible brackets. Greenlee ran a planing mill, and so clearly he had those manufactured from his own drawings. They're really spectacular.
Okay, I haven't gone peeking around your property a whole lot, so.
You're welcome anytime.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, so my first question for you this evening, in looking at some of these shingles and the shingle manufacturers, you're not able to find any available or any manufactured whatsoever?
Of the diamond shape?
Yes.
No manufacturers. I thought that GAF was still producing them. I saw an ad online in Canada. And so I looked into that and tried to call, and that was just an old marketing piece, and they no longer make them. And it would have been, of course, probably cost prohibitive to try to get those from Canada anyway. I've asked experts, and I believe years ago I talked to Brad Williams about this, and he even told me, there have been several people that told me you just can't get the diamond shaped shingles anymore. So
Yeah, you have to go.
I wish I could
some very specialty manufacturers for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Pabco, P-A-B-C-O, does make some. It's a brand that you never see. There's also Artlock. That's another manufacturer for some of this, but both of those are, I couldn't tell you if they're manufacturing them right now or they're not going to be, or still manufacturing them. They're just other options out there that I've seen besides the GAF. So yeah, the diamond shaped shingle is definitely rare. And so I can understand that. So as we're looking at some of this is a roof replacement project for both the upper and lower roof.
Yes.
Okay.
Anywhere there's shingles.
Okay, the lower roof is shingled, the porch roof?
No, the porch roof is not shingled. It just
Okay.
has a kind of I don't know what it is. It's a paper covering.
Okay.
So we're not doing that this year, probably next year. We'll look at that and see if it needs to be replaced. It looks okay.
Okay. I do have a concern about modern details for some of these roofs as they relate to flashing. Has your contractor given any indication on how he intends to deal with some of those details?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay. Particularly like where I'm looking at the dormers, a lot of times now the manufacturers won't warrant some of the old style flashing details unless they're done as kind of a cosmetic thing over top or whatever. So there are some concerns that I have just about making sure that the aesthetic is not impacted negatively by some of these newer flashing details. There are some traditional details out there that are still acceptable, but you're gonna have to talk to the manufacturer to make sure that they are still comfortable with some of those traditional details. And this is just more, I don't want you to get into too much of an issue and then you have a water problem because it's, detailed incorrectly. So.
I know that he's worked on lots and lots of older homes around this neighborhood, around this age, and he and I have talked about, he's willing to do whatever needs to be done to make it correct. So,
okay, great.
If there are some details you can give me, then we'd be happy to follow that.
Well, and there shouldn't be anything that he's not done before. It's just a matter of making sure that the manufacturer's on board with those details. That's all. So one other question that I have for you, are you planning on replacing any roof deck, particularly around the perimeter?
I guess we won't know that until we tear off the shingles and find out if anything needs to be replaced, right? The decking, we can't see it until we get there.
When he's
certainly replace it if it.
Sorry, when he's examined
I'm sorry?
it, when he's examined it, he didn't see anything that looked suspicious or soft.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
And the inside of the attic is not finished. You can see all of the boards, and there's been no damage, no leaks, nothing that we can tell from inside. And he's been on the roof looking at it. So
okay.
We're hoping not.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, my concern is that modern materials with some of the curve at the end for the eaves don't lend themselves quite as well to it, and you could lose some of the definition that you have there now unless it's done in slats or it's done in a bent wood, which is loads of fun. So if there's a deck replacement, I guess I would just want to try and make sure that profile is matched as closely as possible, since it is such a striking feature of the roof.
Absolutely.
So, okay, do any of the other members of the commission have questions for Ms. Dawson?
Yeah, I do have a few questions on Mr. Charnett. Ms. Dawson, when I was looking at the very useful and very helpful photographs of the existing roof system, it struck me that the diamond roofing was actually laid over. I'm going to guess it was laid over some built-in gutters. Have you looked to see what is actually how that roof is terminating? Is there any understanding of what's actually between the end of the roof and where the current modern gutter system starts? Yeah, I'm concerned that when you look at those, that roll, the way it's rolled over, it goes to a flat and then a roll, that is actually indicating a hidden built-in gutter system. And that would have, I think, a significant impact on any roofer's proposal of what they can do. I think that's, so have you looked at any of that?
He hasn't commented on that, so I'm not sure how to answer your question on that. No, I wasn't aware. We've not talked about any hidden gutter system. We've talked about what might be under there, whether or not we thought there was slate or other materials underneath the shingles. But the insurance adjuster and the roofer both think that there's a couple of layers of asphalt from what they've seen, and no slate under there. But I don't know about the edging like you're talking about, or the gutters, I mean, hidden gutters. I did have gutters replaced about 3 years ago. So would they not have noticed that or seen that, mentioned it when they replaced the gutters?
If it was hidden by the roofing system, no, they wouldn't have had any reason to get into it. Because I'm going to suggest that there is likely a decorative molding that terminated that original gutter system, which I'm speculating that it's up there. And based on that speculation, I think the nature of the proposal needs to be further investigated, not only for the preservation of architectural detailing, which may be there, but also for your own interest in acquiring a durable roof, a long life roof. Second question is your discussion on the shingle system. That is your choice. The choice that you've made is, the typical contemporary roofing system, which mimics wood. It's supposed to mimic a wood shingle, not a shake, but a sawn wood shingle is what it's mimicking. And the National Register nomination states that the roof was indeed slate. And the company that you are looking at for a supplier of your roofing material that is mimicking wood shingle also does a slate clone. And I would wonder whether you might consider something that is actually more in keeping with what the original design had.
If I would consider slate?
No, a faux slate. For instance, the company who is manufacturing the shingle that you've selected makes a faux slate.
Right, and when I looked into faux slate, not only was it not anywhere near in my budget, but it also, I didn't read good reviews, honestly, on the ones I looked into anyway.
I'm going to
I
guess
saw
it's the same manufacturing system, that it's the same manufacturing system as the, they're simply cutting it differently, as opposed to cutting they may be a little thicker, I'm not sure, but in any case, it's the same material. It's an asphalt, shingle that is formed.
Oh, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's in the catalog. If you look at their website, it's one of their featured products, same material, same stuff, but it's their slate clone as opposed to a wood shingle clone.
What I based my research on was my neighbors at 809 North McLean. I chose a shingle that's almost exactly what they put on. And since they're in a historic home in the historic district, I knew that they would have had to have gotten approval.
They're not in the historic district.
So
That is not zoned S4.
the
80
big pink
80
house?
Oh, you're talking about there. Okay, that house. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking at the wrong property.
So, yeah, so that's what I based it on. I looked at faux slate, and when I looked, I was looking at the faux slate that's made from other materials,
Mhm.
that really looks like slate. So I looked at shingle styles, and because they had put this style, I was told high-grade architectural shingles got approval. So I thought that was the best way to go.
I thank you for your.
And in my price range, so.
Mhm.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, Greg, so are you saying that she should consider it, or
I guess what I'm saying is I would vote against the city funding a product that does not
Yeah.
resemble what was historically there based upon the
Yeah.
National Register nomination. I would vote yes on her doing a project, but I would not vote for city funding on it.
Gotcha. That's what I thought you were getting at. I just wanted to be clear. All right, thank you. So, I'm sorry. What's your name again, ma'am?
Julie Dawson?
Julie. I'm sorry, Julie. So Miss Julie, so when you did your research, you didn't find that you could afford it wasn't in your price range, the faux slate?
Well,
Is that
I
what you
looked at a different type of faux slate than what Mr. Coos is talking about. It was
Oh,
more like a vinyl or a plastic. I don't recall now because I ruled it out.
right.
But I don't know what shape, what the other shingles are that he's talking about. I just know that I was looking for something that I knew would meet with approval because it had already with my neighbors, and something that would fall into my price range so that I could afford to get this done and get it all done this year. And I'm barely affording it as it is. So I've, pretty much tapped into every financial resource I have to try to.
So my next question to you is, so you're asking for, in your other application, you're asking for assistance, right?
A funk grant, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So are you willing to look at the full slate?
I would be, except that as I'm sure most folks know, it's hard to find a competent roofer and get one lined up who's willing to do the work. I have it on the calendar. I have the funds together. And if I don't do it soon, I'm going to lose him for this year, and I'll have to extend this till next year. I also received a claim check for the hail damage that will expire. So I have to get the work completed in a certain amount of time. So I'd be willing to look into it, but I think budget-wise and everything else, I also think that if it costs more to do the other shingles, that would offset the funk grant anyway. So
Gotcha.
it'd be problematic. It'd be very problematic.
I'd make maybe one other suggestion here. So typically asphalt shingles, like a 3-tab or a multi-tab shingle that is not a wood shake style, has a little bit more of that slate look that we're talking about, Greg. Still comes in variegated colors and is usually less expensive. So there's one other option that I'll throw out there that has sort of a more similar look to slate, not like a wood shingle, but that would still meet your criteria and still carries a long warranty as well.
That'd be fine if you can make the suggestion like that.
Well,
I'm all ears. We can
Same-
change shingle styles or colors. That's
same
not an issue.
company,
Yeah.
the same company carries a 3-tab shingle as Paul is describing. So it'd be the same manufacturer is also carrying that 3-tab style.
So would it be called faux slate? The actual Atlas is the company.
No. Let me look and see. This is the beauty of meeting online. I can hit up Google real fast.
Thank you.
Isn't
I
it a
appreciate that.
miracle? Yeah, it's a miracle, isn't it?
I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Yeah. So Atlas makes the a glass master fiberglass shingle. It's a 30-year warranty on it. It's a 3-tab style.
So Chairperson Charnett, just kind of for make sure we're still on track. Right now, we're discussing the certificate of appropriateness, case BHP 07-21. If I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like the commission would be supportive of a type of shingle that represents kind of a faux slate versus what's proposed. I just want to be sure we're not kind of blending over into the next case, getting ahead of
Certificate of
ourselves.
appropriateness. Yeah. No, I understand where you're going with some of that. Or excuse me, the certificate of appropriateness versus the funk grant. I think our concern here is do we believe it is more appropriate to have a wood shake shingle or to have a style that is more similar to that of a slate? And I think the slate is the look that would have been more consistent with that original look. Is that what I'm hearing from the commission?
Yeah, if it's the faux slate that it's in the price range that she can afford.
It's not a faux slate. I want to be clear about that. It's not a faux slate. It is a rectangular shaped asphalt shingle. So
Okay.
In that regard, it has shape similar to that of slate.
Can you
But-
share that with us?
Gladly. Let me see if I can get it to pop back.
If I understand correctly, what we're looking at doing is modifying the certificate of appropriateness in order to approve it with this material so that then we can approve the next one.
So this shape that you're seeing on your screen is more similar to that of, ignore all the tabs I have open. I look up a lot of stuff all the time. But the shape of the shingles is more similar to that of slate. Lots of different colors, and you can see there's still variegation within the color as well. Something like this would be pretty similar, very, very non-dramatic.
Looks good.
All right, very good. With that being said, if there are no further questions for Ms. Dawson, then we'll have our discussion and I'll close that portion of.
I still feel that we need to address the possible existence of historic moldings underneath the rolled roofing that is currently there.
Is that more for a question for Ms. Dawson or for the commission to discuss, Greg?
I think for the commission.
Okay. All right, Ms. Dawson, then thank you very much. We're going to discuss here, and we'll if we have another question, we'll pull you back in. But right now, we're going to try and just have our discussion amongst ourselves. Okay, Greg, I hear what you're saying. I think it's possible that there is a gutter that's been covered up underneath there, but is it probable? And that's, I'm hesitant to say yes, because there is a high likelihood when I see the turn down on the eaves that it kind of rolls nicely. It doesn't look quite as flat as I would have expected if there were still some sort of gutter hidden in there. You know, it would have extended out a little bit further in a flat plane, is my guess. Now, having
I
said that,
guess,
I could be totally wrong about that, but the other part of that is if there was some molding or something underneath there, it would have been very difficult for her to attach that exterior gutter.
Mhm.
That's my point right there. You just said it, Mr. Charnett. That's the point right there. I was thinking the same thing.
I would just think that, let me, without putting any condition on this, I think the commission needs to at least address that the property owner needs to be prepared for a significant cost increase if such a condition is discovered.
Are you suggesting that we would restore that internal gutter?
No, I'm not suggesting that we would require that. I'm more concerned about unsupported roofing material. The reason why I think it's still up there is because typically when people were going about the business of getting rid of building gutters, they were wrecking them badly, and that's too neat. And the neatness, the surviving neatness there strikes me that there's actually something that was well done underneath that, as opposed to what you would expect for the basic, let's get rid of the box gutter and we'll just cut it off and hang something in front of it, which is a typical remodel that you experience in these kinds of vintage houses.
Possibly. I've also seen some houses from this time period and with some of the eave conditions that are very similar that simply just didn't have gutters. And they just let a little piece of metal or just the shingles do all the draining for them, or the slate in this case. So it's possible that they may be hidden up there or not. Perhaps we could make it a condition simply to provide the commission with some information, a photo or something that is that maybe where you're headed?
I'm concerned about the viability of the job if there's an undiscovered or unknown factor that changes the nature of the project that the roofer has to undertake.
Is it possible for her to ask
I think the roofer could get
roofer?
on a ladder and get up there
Right.
and peel some
Yeah,
shingle and just, and so
yeah, that's
perhaps,
what I was going to suggest. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
but roofers cover over these box gutters all the time. Like whoever did the previous job, if there are box gutters there, they've covered over them. And my previous house, the roofer had covered right over them. So I don't think we're asking her to restore box gutters,
No,
right?
we're not. We are not. No,
so
at least I'm not. Yeah.
So what we're saying is that it just needs to be repaired sufficient that the roof edge would be structurally stable.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Dawson, do you have any problem with that?
No, I would expect that. So
Okay. Okay. I think then that's a pretty simple requirement. In which case, I would entertain a motion on this project.
Chairperson Charnett, just to clarify too, if the commission is going to recommend conditions on the certificate of appropriateness, you would want to include those in your motion. Otherwise, the motion before you is what's been presented by the application as it's been presented by the petitioner.
So then should I make a motion to amend the,
For example, the board could propose, a motion to recommend approval of the certificate of appropriateness with the condition that, X shingle is used in that it resembles slate in size. You could be a little bit more specific as to what your condition is.
I make a motion of what Katie said.
Well, I
Okay, so I'll clarify here.
supplement that, yes, please. Because like you said, it sounds like there was some discussion about matching kind of in size and texture and shape to the slate. Even though it's still an asphalt shingle, that's what I gathered from your discussion. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you could phrase the motion, Chairperson, in a way
Yeah.
that
Let me go ahead and phrase it like this. So the motion on the floor is for replacement, roof replacement and chimney repairs for the property at 806 North Evans Street. And with the amendment, or as presented with one amendment, and that amendment is that the shingles would be of appropriate size and scale, the asphalt shingles of appropriate size and scale, that they would resemble that of slate.
I second.
So, Commissioner Peters, you made the motion, and Commissioner Chiselle, you seconded the motion.
Yes.
Okay, then let's please have a roll call vote.
Okay. Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Chiselle,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. All right, we're going to move on to BHP 08-21, consideration, review, and action on the petition for a funk grant at the same property in the amount of $5,000.
I don't know that you need a staff report for this, but it's worth mentioning that the contractor retained by the applicant is Roger Ryburn, and it's estimated at $29,400 in total for both the re-roofing and for the tuck pointing. All of the eligibility criteria are met or not applicable. Sweat equity will not be funded, and prevailing wage is not required since it is an owner-occupied structure. And as was just voted on, a certificate of appropriateness is being sought concurrently with the funk grant. The staff is recommending approval of the requested funk grant.
Pardon. It's not a commentary on the dollars of the presentation. It's just me joking. Sorry. So sorry. Very good. Thank you very much. Ms. Dawson, would you also like to provide further comment on this portion?
I'm a little confused, and I don't know if I can ask the question that I want to ask, because it probably pertains to the first matter. They're sort of mixed up. They're sort of blended. When Mr. Coos originally was speaking about the appropriateness of the shingle, the type of shingle I had chosen, and I said that I had based that on my neighbors having probably previously also had a slate roof and chose that shingle and got it approved. I thought he was saying that a funk grant couldn't be approved if it wasn't resembling the original, if it wasn't resembling slate. Now I think we're saying that I can't get that the certificate of appropriateness can't be approved unless I resemble slate. So I'm a little confused by that. I thought I might have to give up the funk grant, but I thought I would be able to get approval for that high-grade architectural shingle for the certificate of appropriateness. I hope that makes sense. So I'm looking at, so go ahead. I'm looking at going back and looking at different shingles to even be able to do the job. Is that correct?
So yeah, what we just approved was indeed the certificate of appropriateness, which would include a condition for a shingle that more represents slate. You are
Okay.
correct in your assertion on that.
Okay.
And the
Make a note here that
discussion,
Ms. Grayling has joined the meeting.
I would like to note that the discussion, that I distinctly recall Paul referring to a 3-tab type of shingle, which your manufacturer carries, which actually costs less than the one that you were looking at.
Are you concerned, Ms. Dawson, about the quality of the shingle, or?
No, I'm concerned about the look of the shingle. I think it's very unattractive. And I'm curious as to how the neighbors would have gotten that approved, the same shingles approved on their historic home. And I'm expected to go with the slate. I'm trying to ask that very politely. I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure how to phrase it. But it looks more slate back in the day, the pictures I've seen, they weren't so uniform. And this is very cookie cutter looking, and it looks less authentic to me than the architectural shingles. And I know I don't have nearly the historic knowledge and background that most of you have. So by the look of that slate shingle, I think it looks like it costs less, honestly.
Yeah, well, and to Greg's point, a wood shake roof is an expensive roof, and that the wood shake idea, the representation of the wood shake idea, is not in keeping with the historic nature of the home. Now, as to what other commissions before might have said about that, I can't really comment because I don't know the conditions under which they approved those applications. For this purpose, I think what the commission here just arrived at, the conclusion that we all arrived at, is that the more appropriate shingle is the tabbed shingle that has the look that's closer to asphalt, or excuse me, closer to slate in an asphalt material. Now, having said that, you don't necessarily have to use Atlas asphalt shingles. It could be a different manufacturer that produces an asphalt shingle, and it's certainly still open to interpretation as to what looks more like slate. If it is a quality concern, if it's a 50-year warranty versus a 30-year warranty, I imagine that we would be willing to take that into consideration, because we don't want to use taxpayer dollars for something that is going to need to be replaced sooner.
I think perhaps one of the issues that Ms. Dawson has is, of course, the turnaround time where she can sign a contract. And so I would wonder whether we can do a contingency that would authorize our chair, Paul Charnett, to confirm shingle choice with the homeowner and approve the grant.
I think we'd have to approve the grant. I'm assuming, Katie, but we'd have to approve the grant this evening, and then we say as appropriate, or as 07-21 was approved, and then we would have to kind of go back and amend 07-21.
Okay.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So what I'm understanding is that it sounds like the petitioner would I don't need to provide some additional information for the grant. You could, if the petitioner wanted to pursue the grant, they could table the grant tonight and provide that information at the next meeting. The certificate of appropriateness in BHP 07-21 was approved with a condition. There is an appeal in our code if it were denied, or if it were There were need for a certificate of economic hardship. Those mechanisms are there as well for the petitioner. You know, if there's issues with that condition that were previously, that was added to the certificate of appropriateness. Essentially, I mean, because you approved it with a condition, as it was presented, it was not approved. It was, you know, basically denied as you had the certificate of appropriateness as you had originally presented it, because you added that additional condition. Chairperson Charnett, I'm sorry, I didn't really provide you with a good answer to your question, but I think in terms of the grant, you could table the grant until you had the additional information necessary. You know, the applicant could move forward with the building permit and the certificate of appropriateness as it's been approved and pursue the grant. You know, I guess technically the grant is needed before the work can start. So there would be a little bit of a delay there. But if we tabled it to the next meeting, you know, you could approve the grant then. And then.
And I think Ms. Dawson is needing to proceed on the work. So I don't know that she has that option to delay it.
Do we know when the work is scheduled to start?
Right after Memorial Day, the week after Memorial Day. I wasn't able to get everything pulled together to get into the April meeting. I missed it by like 48 hours, 24 hours.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the information that you're objecting to, Ms. Dawson, or is it an objection or so much of it as in concern, is that the look of this shingle you don't feel is as high quality?
I just think the look of the shingle, I looked at.
He means is ugly.
It's ugly. Yeah.
Just say it. Just say
Just
it.
say it.
No, I don't think slate is ugly, but I've looked at a lot of old slate roofs, and to me, it looks too uniform and too modern and too cookie cutter-ish to look like an original slate roof. The one I chose, actually, I thought looked a little more, because it's not so uniform and perfect. So maybe I could find something to strike the balance, something in an architectural shingle that looks more like your idea of slate. But that is, to me, it's too uniform. It looks like they made widgets.
I understand. Mr. Charnett, is it possible you can help her with that? I'm putting I'm putting you up. I'm so sorry, but I know she's in a time crunch.
Right. Well, let me add this. GAF also makes a slate line that has a little bit more of that look. You may be interested in that. It's an antique slate style. You pick it up at Lowe's. There are other brands out there. There are other shingles out there that can achieve what we're after. It's still open to interpretation. If you have some concern about that and what would be acceptable, we could certainly, as a commission, simply put that on my plate, and I can help you with that, Ms. Dawson, finding something that would sort of strike the balance. Are you saying something? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I keep clicking on that and it's not taking. I would be forever grateful for that. And are the ones that you mentioned readily available in stock, like something that wouldn't take weeks to order and arrive? Or do you happen to know? Maybe you don't know for sure.
Okay.
I'll look into it.
This is the one I'm looking at right now. Should be able to see my screen here.
That was pretty.
Okay, it has a much more defined look, but this is the quality that we're talking about. So there's just all it is a dark line that's sort of in there.
Chairperson Charnett, can I make a suggestion that we either take a 5-minute recess or maybe choose to table this until later on, and Ms. Dawson can have some time to look at what you've later on in the meeting, I mean, and then we still have the other items on the agenda.
I'd like to suggest that as a commission, we can go ahead and take a vote on the $5,000 for roof replacement here. I think that that's the other piece of this puzzle. I think the question is really about, are we going to amend BHP 721 as we just voted on it? So with that being said, I think we should close this matter for 0821 before we try and open the matter of 0721 back up. Is everybody amicable to doing so? Yes. Okay. All right. Then I would entertain a motion for BHP 08-21 for the fund grant in amount of $5,000.
Second.
You're the
Are
first.
you making the motion?
No. You're the first, Regine.
I'm sorry. I thought you was making the motion. I don't have it in front. Okay. Oh boy. I don't have the reading in front of me. I'm on my phone. So there it is. Thank you. Okay. Where are you? I make a motion that we accept BHP 0821 as is for the $5,000 fund grant.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay. Thank you. We have a roll call, please.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes, and thank you for putting that up for me.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, we're going to come back to BHP 0721 and give Ms. Dawson some time to review some of that. We'll move that along to the end after BHP 1521. All right, in which case, let's move along to BHP 09-21, consideration, review, and action on petition submitted by Mr. Brad Williams for a fund grant in the amount of $1,837.71 for replacement and repairs, roof replacement repairs for the property located at 702 East Grove Street.
Staff is recommending approval of the fund grant for this property. The certificate of appropriateness had previously been reviewed and issued in March of this year. So the applicant is requesting a fund grant specifically to the cost of materials, which comes out to $3,675.48 in total. I can't do math, so the amount being requested in the fund grant is $1,837.71. So 50% of the project. All of the standards are either met or inapplicable for the proposed project. Again, no sweat equity will be funded. Prevailing wage is required in this case because it is not an owner-occupied structure. I would like to call attention to criteria 8 on this page. Says certificate of appropriateness and fund grant applications must occur in the same fiscal year. The certificate of appropriateness was granted in the previous fiscal year. However, the application was received in that same fiscal year. It's just that this hearing is occurring in the new fiscal year. So I believe that criteria is met, and we are recommending approval.
Very good. All right, thank you very much. Do we need to, commissioners, do we need to hear from Mr. Williams regarding?
I think we heard a lot the last time go around in March, I would move that we do the grant for this project.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay. And could we please have a roll call vote then?
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes,
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Williams. We appreciate you being visible on camera. It's so nice.
yep.
Okay, moving along to BHP 1021. Consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by Mr. Anthony Seckler for a certificate of appropriateness for tuck pointing for the property located at 905 East Jefferson Street. Can we please have staff report?
Staff is recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness for this property. The proposed work entails tuck pointing missing or deteriorated mortar joints around the foundation, relaying loose and missing bricks, and a proposed acid clean of the mortar sphere. These are some of the pictures the applicant provided of the existing conditions of the foundation. You can see where the mortar is missing or deteriorated in places. All of the criteria are met. It's just that in terms of item 7, the surface cleaning of structures shall be undertaken with the gentlest means possible. Staff was not able to make a determination as to whether the proposed acid wash is the gentlest means possible. So the commission may consider adding a condition that another cleaning method be used. But otherwise, the standards are met.
Okay, do we have anyone here to represent this property?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Seckler. Could you please
Yes, I'm on.
your name and address for the record?
Yeah, Anthony Seckler, 905 East Jefferson Street, Bloomington, Illinois.
And do you swear or affirm that the information you're about to provide is accurate to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Please tell us a little bit about your project.
So around the property, especially on the south side by the driveway and then on the east side, there's quite a bit of deterioration in the joints and the mortar. It's starting to pretty much crumble away in areas and needs to be tuck pointed. There's a few bricks missing, not very much, that may need to be replaced, and that's kind of be based on his assessment when he goes around and looks at the property. The bricks will be replaced with brick of basically of the same kind. He explained it to me. I apologize. I don't know the exact technical term for the brick that they used on the house. The contractor does know that, and he's going to replace it with like brick where needed.
Okay. Okay. I have some questions here. It's not clear from your petition what kind of mortar is going to be used.
I'd have to ask. It's going to be the same kind of mortar as possible as what's on the house. It would be this kind of a cement mix mortar.
Okay, cement mix mortar doesn't give me great hope. Lime mortar is what would have been used at this time. I also have some significant concern about the quality of the brick. This is a soft brick, as apparent from the outside when we see some of the spalling that's taken its course over the years, and it is multi-width. How far is he planning to tool these joints and cut into the wall?
Yeah, I'd have to ask him those questions. I really don't know.
Okay. Do we have any idea? The acid wash was mentioned. Do we have any idea of the percentage of that or the concentration that we're talking about here?
It was just to clean the mortar that washes down on the brick to clean the mortar off of the side of the brick. I don't know the concentration of acid he'd be using.
Okay.
I'm sure he would be willing to do something else if that was necessary.
Yeah, the concern that I always have. So on older bricks like this, it's better actually just to take a brick and rub it on the brick. So you're actually removing the mortar mix using that means rather than trying to use an acid wash. The acid wash will start to deteriorate a brick like this much faster. I have some concern right now that I think your mason needs to answer. You know, as I see some of this, then there are some pieces. You know, what kind of brick is really important here. Matching color is not the same as matching the quality. In a softer brick like this, if you go back with a harder brick and you try and put a harder brick in where there is soft brick, you risk breaking the bricks around as the building moves. So I have a lot of concerns that I'd like to probably address with your mason. But let me yield the floor to the other commissioners.
I agree with what you're saying, Chairperson. I mean, we've talked about that in many other cases about the soft brick and the hard using hard brick. So I have the same concern.
As do I.
Okay.
So we don't have in our packet something from the contractor, from the mason, and the scope of, like, detailed scope of their work. Is that correct? I'm not seeing that.
I didn't see anything. Katie, did he submit anything?
No.
I don't believe it was provided.
Okay.
There's nothing there.
Okay. I might propose then we table this conversation then, and until we have some more information from the mason. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Is there a
Yes, maybe they can come to the next meeting when this comes back up.
Now, I would wonder whether we might want a written specification for him to supply something that's documented in terms of technique and the mortar mix specifics.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree,
we should
Greg.
give the petitioner a list of questions that we would like to have answered, so that we're making sure that on the next visit, all of our questions can be answered.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, well, with that being said, I think that applies to BHP 1021 and 1121. I think we need to table these until the next meeting, until we can have a little bit more information presented to us. Mr. Seckler, I take it you've maybe taken some notes on this, or would you like us to send you an email or something with a list of questions we'd like to have you answer?
Yeah, if you could send me an email, I took some of it down, and I will ask him. He just gave me a quote on basically the work, but he didn't specify any of the materials to be used. I know that. All I have is the quote for what he wanted to do. So,
okay,
if you'd send me an email, I can try and get him to come to this too as well. He was not familiar with this meeting whatsoever when I talked to him about it. So,
okay, very good. All right, well, we will table this until the next month's meeting. And Katie, if you can get us in touch with Mr. Seckler or Caitlin, then we can put a little list together.
We do need to do a roll call vote on the table, like a motion, second roll call.
Okay, well then let's have a motion to postpone or table BHP 09-21, or excuse me, BHP 10-21 and BHP 11-21.
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll have a vote, please.
And that's to table it until the next meeting, which is June. I'll get the date for you.
17th.
June 17th. Okay. Ms.
5 o'clock.
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Seckler. We will be in touch, and we'll let you know.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to BHP 12-21, consideration, review, and action for petition submitted by Ruth and Joe Haney for a rust grant in the amount of $36,250 for roof repairs and replacement for the property at 408 West Washington. This is the former Rust Tractor site, currently the Regional Alternative School. All right. Staff, please go ahead.
Staff is recommending in favor of the rust grant for a new roof at 408 West Washington Street. Although the project is not a contributing structure to the district, it still is within the rust grant boundary, and we currently have adequate funding available to sponsor the project. The applicant asked for the initial half of the cost, which was about $37,000. Staff is recommending, the maximum award amount of $25,000 because this is a non-contributing structure and kind of a routine maintenance item. It would be, if we had additional, well, we do have one other case on the agenda that's a rust grant case, but it would be a lower priority versus a preservation of a contributing structure. So the existing roof system has, according to the applicant, has been repaired multiple times. It's a metal roof. The building was reconstructed after the original building built down in 1996. And it was done by a local architect, Paul Young, but does not really contribute to the significance of the downtown historic district's period of significance. There are two estimates that were included in the packet. The applicant has requested the kind of the thicker metal roof system, which would have a little bit higher price, but would contribute to the longevity of the structure. Both seem appropriate. Staff would defer to the applicant's request, especially since the maximum amount is $25,000 for a grant. Looking at the rust grant criteria, this is within the target area. Prevailing wage is required, and the applicant's quotes included that. It's an eligible expense, although it's a kind of a lower priority in terms of funding for the district. And then the rust grant requires that the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation are met. Staff found that the standards were met or not applicable, but in general, because we're dealing with a non-contributing structure, there's no real concern about damaging a contributing structure in the district. So we're recommending in favor of the rust grant as it's been presented, and the applicant is on the phone and can answer questions that you might have as well.
Okay. All right. Ruth and Joe, good evening.
Good evening.
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Joseph Haney, 9030 Hardesty Run, Bloomington, Illinois.
Ruth Haney. Same.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm that the information that you're about to present is accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Please tell us a little bit about your project.
Well, this, the existing roof, we've had some issues with since, it probably started around 2013, 14. We did repairs, and then we ended up having K&K Coating come in and coat it. And that we spent $17,000 with $17,480 on that coating. Didn't ask the city to help us or do anything. It's just one of those things we had to do. And we've been fighting it. It held for a couple of years, and then we've been fighting it ever since. And so anyway, it's time to replace. And if you notice that building, if you look at the picture, we tried to take it into old style. Those brick and everything were salvaged from the original building. We cleaned it, every one of them to relay it. And so we tried to put windows, everything in to maintain a kind of a historical look. Because I didn't want, we did the building across the street, they had put a metal front on it. We took the metal front off, put on brick. And we did the gingerbread because of the era that building was built in. And this, we were trying to accomplish the same thing. But anyway, the alternative school has the interior structure. We've not asked for anything from the city on it.
We had to close in the vault in the front because people could lift up the manhole and go right into our building. So we ended up having to have a brick wall put in underneath the street.
Masonry wall.
A masonry wall put in. And again, we did not ask the city to help. And although that is one of the criteria you can ask for. So I didn't feel bad about asking for the additional funds because right now we could really use them. And because we've never asked for anything else from the Russ grant to do work on this building. And we feel it's imperative that we do this work or we could lose a tenant. And
we don't want to lose the alternative school. And they're actually, we haven't raised their rent in years. And we intend to maintain where we're at now. They're operating at 47% capacity. They can't afford to pay more. And so our whole goal is to keep them downtown and keep the building occupied.
And we feel like the downtown does not need another empty building. And our building is what, 14,000 square feet?
That building's 12,000.
Okay, and so it would be hard for us to go in and reconstruct it and have a different use for it. It would be very costly. If we lose this lease that is coming up next year, we would literally have to go in and redesign the inside to make it appropriate for other type of rental because it is strictly set up for a school.
Now, one of the other things we've done since the last contract, they had to let their maintenance guy go. And we have actually take care of all their maintenance, no charge. And we whatever they need, we just handle it.
And they've asked us for new carpeting because the carpeting is original to there. So we're looking at any.
Some of it is. We've replaced 2 wings.
Okay.
We got another wing we want to replace.
So we figured the more help we can get on things that we can't get help on, it would be better off trying to get it. What we can do, what additional funds we can get for the roof will only help us complete what we need to do inside too, which we cannot ask for those kind of things for the Russ grant. I'd like them to take into consideration that, we didn't come to the city and ask for half of the 17,000 that we put out, a couple of 5 years ago or 8 years ago. We didn't ask you to go do the vault. We just did it ourselves, took care of it because we felt let's just do it. And that's what we did. So that is why I didn't feel bad about asking for the additional money.
I have a couple of questions for you. I'm looking at the quote differences between Tremont and Messing. Messing, it indicates that there's a 2-foot ice barrier around the perimeter, but they're using a superior roofing product of the 26 gauge instead of the 29 gauge.
Okay, we've actually changed. Tremont is going to go with 26. And they're also putting the barrier under the whole roof.
Okay.
Now, something else that Messing missed the ridge vents. And when I talked to them, they said they had to pick that up yet. And so you know, Tremont has been there. They've been responsive. You know, the difference in the companies when you're dealing with contractors is you want to work with somebody you're comfortable with, somebody attentive, and they are very attentive. And so, you know, I've been in business since '74 in Bloomington, and I'm really comfortable with them. So, you know, that's part of that.
Great. This actually begs the question for me, is a ridge vent necessary on this roof? Is this a vented roof assembly?
Is it necessary?
Yeah, do you have soffit vents as well?
Yeah, they're in the ridge vents.
But do you have soffit vents?
No, they're in the gable. They're in the gables.
Okay, there's an attic space of some kind that you're venting?
Yes. That roof, the reason we're going with that also is, and putting the ice barrier under the whole thing, is that roof is only a 312 pitch. And so when I'm also a customer of McElroy steel. I've bought and used McElroy for years. So after I got the first bid, I contacted McElroy myself and discussed the whole system and the best way to do it. You know, and I let Tremont and Messing both know that, you know, I was going to do that.
Now this don't have the thing underneath though.
So anyway, that's the thing. This steel is going up. The prices is skyrocketing. As of right now, McElroy told me June 1st, there's going to be another 11% increase. They just had a 4% increase. And their total right now is somewhere around 70% in the last just over a year increase. So it's crazy what's going on right now with our building products.
And it's likely until we sign a contract, that price of what we're looking at, that 72.5, I believe it was, is going to go higher, because if we don't sign a lease or a price, a bid by then, we're going to hit that June 1st increase again.
Got it. Okay. All right. Do any of the commission members have questions for Ruth and Joe?
I don't.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Ruth. We're going to have a brief discussion here. All right. I'd open this up for the commission to discuss.
What is the size of the fund available this year?
We are currently at full funding. I believe it's 135,000 at the moment. Let me confirm that.
And in terms of priority in the past, we've of course said that, you know, historic is certainly our first priority. However, this also goes all the way into economic development and all of the pieces in between. And I think it's wise to consider that this building is providing a service, that it is an occupied building, and they're seeking to retain this as an occupied building, have a tenant. Tenant's still planning to stay. All of these things are very, very good. So I think we definitely should take those things into consideration. I'd also add the school is providing a service to the community.
Yes.
And not that all of those things are things that we can take into account for every property, But in this instance, the roof and the service of this property, because it is in the S4 district, we need to at least acknowledge.
Well said.
Okay, if that's the case, I don't see anybody with any further discussion items. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we award a Rust grant at the level of $31,000, which is a halfway point between the recommendation of staff and what the Haney's are asking.
So you're saying 50% of the 72.5.
31,000. I'm naming a figure, not a percent.
31,250. I have to
Yeah.
be precise, Greg.
Okay.
I second it.
That sounds good.
Okay, can we please have a vote?
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Ruth and Joe. You're muted.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very
Good
much.
luck to you guys.
thank you.
Yeah, and I would recommend, like, come back. Like, if you do have other projects that are grant eligible, come back and ask. That's what
We'll do
That's what
that.
we're here for.
Okay, thank you much. Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right, onward. Thank you very much. Okay, on to BHP. Well, BHP 1321 was withdrawn, so we're going to move on to BHP 1421. Consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by Mr. Kyle Glandon for a Rust grant in the amount of $25,000 for window and door replacements to the storefront facade for the property located at 236 East Front Street. Good evening.
Staff is recommending in favor of the Rust grant request for window replacement and door replacement at the 236 East Front Street. This property is contributing to the downtown National Register District, although we're not sure if the windows are original. We've looked, I cannot find an original photo of the building. The building is in 2017, the city funded a grant to replace the windows on the second and third stories. The windows on the first floor, it's unclear if those are the original. They don't appear to be, and according to the applicant, they are failing. The scope of work includes retaining the existing columns, the cast iron columns, and the masonry elements, but would include changing the window configuration as well as removing the double doors and replacing the apartment door, the entrance to the apartments on the west side of the building. Removing the double doors helps with accessibility into the property as well. The applicant originally had one bid with their application and recently provided 2 additional bids. So staff's original recommendation was approval with the condition that additional bids were provided, and prior to the meeting, the applicant was able to get 2 additional quotes, not specifically on the window system, but on the installation and operational costs. That has been met. The lowest bid was the original bid, which came in at $56,360, and half of the applicant was requesting $25,000, which is the maximum grant amount. Looking at the Rust grant criteria, this is within the target area. It's a contributing building to the downtown. This project scope of work is an eligible expense. Prevailing wage is required, and no sweat equity will be funded. And also, the proposed project complies with the Secretary's, according with staff's analysis of the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. as I mentioned, we've searched, we had the museum searching, looked through newspaper articles and cannot locate an original photo of this building. But the historic elements that we are aware of are intended to stay and should not be damaged by the project. And the original, the current windows also do not appear to be of any significance to the structure. So we're recommending approval. And I can answer any questions you've got for staff.
Okay. Greg, looks like you got a question for staff.
I've got a statement. I disagree with the staff's assessment on the historic nature of the window system. For light store windows are very typical 1880s kind of window. They started using four light systems in the buildings from the 1860s. And that I would say that they actually do have significance. I do not know if that those panes of glass or the mullions and munchins are original to the building, but the arrangement of the four light are and do have significance. The door system, I believe, was a attempt on the part of the previous owner to put in a historic looking door. I do not believe they're original to the building, but I would say that they are certainly complementary to the period.
Okay.
I have a question on what he just said. So Greg, are you saying that the doors should not be replaced?
I am not saying that. I'm simply making an observation of the historic.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
But I will get into the other part later.
Okay, all right.
I agree with Mr. Coos about the four light system. That was the one thing that I looked at and saw this with a large pane of glass at the top and then something done in a three-part. Didn't make any sense to me. I've never seen that in a historic building like this. I mean, not this type of a building. So I wondered why the three panes across and one big pane in the top. I don't know.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Glandon to please provide some information for the record, and then I plan to recuse myself simply out of respect to Mr. Glandon as being a fellow architect. I don't want to be the picky one on this commission or not picky one or whatever. I think it's only appropriate out of professional courtesy that I give Mr. Glandon the opportunity to present his case. So Mr. Glandon, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Kyle. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's Kyle Glandon, 1407 Maplewood Drive in Normal.
And do you swear or affirm that the information that you're about to give is accurate to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Charnett, I welcome your comments. I'll take any and all criticisms. That's part of our career choice. So
no, I will yield the floor to the commission. I got to go to the bathroom anyway, guys. So.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a specific question for me to respond to, but I will start with the question about the layout of the window system. I recognize this is maybe a little unconventional for what you guys are reviewing. The intent is not to come back with an exact replication of what was there prior. This is thought of as an improvement upon the streetscape and for the building in order to sort of maintain its economic vitality here. And so what you're looking at is a bifold window system. So those three panes that you see sort of collapse onto themselves such that the storefront would open up and whatever our tenants are doing on the inside would then be able to experience the streetscape more and vice versa. So it would be unique in that regard to the downtown area, something that we see often in other communities on lively streetscapes. And then I guess in response to the 4-part window, certainly the storefront that is in the front on the street side is a retrofit storm window system. No idea when that was installed, but I suspect that's not the one we're discussing. On the back side, on the tenant, on the interior side, you can tell that several attempts have been made to maintain it. I'm not familiar enough with that system to know if it was original or if it was also a sort of creative solution to a building problem that was common with this previous building owner. But the jury is out. I think it's likely that the splitting of the windows may have been an original design decision. I can't comment on whether or not the single pane system is actually original.
Are you saying there's a single sheet of plate glass behind 4 lights?
Yeah, so they although they do not align perfectly, what you all see in the images of the exterior is just a storm system. There's no gasketing, but then you can see, if you look carefully, you can see that the current tenant in our building doesn't appreciate daylight, so the roller shades come down to the existing horizontal mullion on the interior glass system. So then you can see the drapes are hung at that height. There's been a piece of what's the word I'm looking for, like some sort of retrofit system made to screen the windows there. But it does, you can sort of tell from this image that there's 2 sort of redundant systems. The interior one maybe more closely replicate what was original.
So is the interior then a 4-light system?
Right, yeah.
Okay. How do I want to say, do any of the moldings of those the Muntins profiles, do they match any other part in the building?
At this point, there are no other remaining window systems that haven't been replaced since my ownership started in 2016.
My concern is that we might be looking at a 1880s window system. And I would wonder whether it's appropriate for the commission to pay to remove a historic window system of 120-volt system.
Yeah.
So far as it's a preservation commission is what we do.
Right.
And so I'm concerned about at this point, I would not be favorable to the proposal based upon that there is a likelihood, in my mind, a high likelihood that we're looking at a original window system. The doors are not original, and it is important for this commission to work with building owners to create greater handicap accessibility. And I would think that might be a piece that could be better handled than a single door. I could be wrong. The materials of a fiberglass door are not really, in a sense, a compatible material to the historic nature of the building. Now, you are not zoned historic, and so the commission has no control over what your decisions are as a building owner. What the commission does have control over is how the funds are utilized. So,
Can I comment?
Yeah, I think I said what I had to say, Georgine. Thank you.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Greg, totally. But however, that split door is very difficult for a person with a handicap.
Yeah,
So it's,
I'm not recommending retention of it.
oh, okay.
What I'm recommending is that a better solution using compatible materials be found.
Oh, for the door. Okay.
Yes.
So now my comment on the windows, but you know, we don't know for sure if those are original to the building. Can't find any.
I did the historic preservation survey for the downtown.
Okay.
And I'm surprised that the museum was unable to find images, because I know when I did the survey, I did have a period woodcut or wood engraving of the building.
There's
Oh,
actually a photo
advertised.
on page 100 that I don't know what the time frame is, but you can see the windows in there, and they're like not a 4-pane. They are just the solid. Each one has their own.
Are you so, wait a minute, Dawn, are you saying page 100 in the packet?
Page 100 in the packet, yep.
Okay.
With
I
the
missed that.
with the
Let me
yellow
find
Jeep.
Okay. Let me find that.
Well, but I'm looking at the one that's dated 2014.
Page are you on, Greg?
Street. I have a paper copy. I'm sorry. I do not have the PDF.
Is it up or down from the CAD rendering?
It's the page that faces the Workbench Architects quote.
I see the one you're talking about, Dawn. That's a pretty door, though. Look at the one. Yeah, the windows are 2/2. Look like, isn't it?
That's one way of saying it. Yes.
So Greg, if you go down another page, you should be able to see the one I'm talking about that looks like, what, late 70s, maybe?
Oh, I see it. Yeah, that's totally different.
Yeah, I can tell you that the image has been manipulated, so it doesn't actually, it's been kind of squashed by, it's just an early digital image. On my copy of it, it is not distinct of what's going on with the windows. I can't tell from it.
Okay. I mean, I clearly don't see any horizontal. Yep, this is the one. Any horizontal or vertical pieces in that window. And I like the new rendering. I think it looks sharp, so. I like the proposal.
For what it's worth, and this is covered in the packet by the city staff, the previous facade grant funds that we received were to pay to put in fiberglass windows above. And so that, our attempt to use fiberglass doors is both a sort of durability question, as well as matching what's above.
Where I'm at on this is I would certainly say that the cause of the handicap accessibility issues, that we would look at some kind of door system, but I would not, in good conscience, be able to vote for a window system that is in no way, shape, or form intended to or resemble a historic storefront. And we are a historic preservation commission. And you as a building owner are free to do with the building as you so choose, because it is not zoned. But you are coming to an entity whose job is to work on the preservation of historic streetscapes
Yes.
and the preservation of historic materials when possible, if you're actually dealing with historic materials.
May I ask a question? Is it possible to determine if the windows are original? Is there a way to do that without, having the photo or doing any sort of extreme demolition?
I would say the joinery, any joinery in them, you should see through tenons in an original window system. The joints should be tight. The materials should be a very tight grained material. Those are the things I would look for to if I was trying to do material evidence on it.
Usually old wood it appears to be very different than the newer wood used. So yeah, if you look at old construction, you can really tell when it is the original.
Also, I just wanted to say that, we do use the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which also recognize any changes that, contemporary design for alteration and additions to existing properties shall not be discouraged when such alterations and additions do not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural materials, and such design is compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the property. We've had other cases downtown where the board has recommended kind of amendments to the window system that would be more appropriate for funding. If the applicant is interested in that, that's another point of your discussion tonight, if you want to have that discussion.
I would like to see further research on the trying to identify images, because I know there's an image out there. I've seen one. I've worked with it. And then also an examination of that original window, if it is. Nonetheless, I would argue that the proposed does not fit our criteria or the Secretary of Interior standards criteria, because that the storefront is the dominant feature of a commercial building. That is the dominant design from the streetscape viewer.
Yeah.
So perhaps what I can suggest is that we table this and do some more research on it. And I would also ask that the architect consider whether he can take a 4-pane system and develop similar ventilation and open space using that quadrants as opposed to this folding screen system.
I can't speak for my business partners on the venture and for where we stand on securing tenants. But we're approaching this as commercial landlords, not as a residential homeowner. So our time frames are a little different, and we have a tenant turnover happening right now. So we have some issue there that our opportunity to make these sorts of improvements can be short. And I think that it is most likely that what will occur is that we will not make improvements and end up securing another tenant that is similar to the existing tenant that would, result in no improvement to the streetscape and, sort of where we are, and no dollars would be spent to improve the building. So that would just be my comment on shelving the idea, is that we're not really in a position to dwell on the topic too long to make the improvements. I think your questions are valid, and I'd love to sort of help determine how old the interior window system is, but I don't know if we'll make it back in front of you, is what I'm saying on this particular application, if that's what's happening.
No, I am happy to be outvoted, but I will stick to what I feel that this commission really should be doing with these funds.
Well, I believe that we would need a motion and a second if the commission is going to act on the petition tonight.
Still have questions. Is there any wiggle room in this at all?
It's a building that is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It is a contributing structure to a National Register of Historic Places district that contributes to that. And it behooves us as a Historic Preservation Commission to encourage the preservation and restoration of those contributing buildings that are in the National Register of Historic Places district.
That is correct. So my question is, if there is a picture that shows the window system and it is not what it is there now, what do you suggest then, Greg?
That you use that historic image and the creative talents of the architect to come up with a solution that respects the historic integrity of the building and the historic era which it came out of.
Okay.
To be totally candid, I'm not arguing any of that. I think that is a difficult decision for you all to have to make as commissioners, and this is a question of how the facade grant funds are supposed to be used. We're presenting, our best work and how we would like to see that streetscape improved and what we feel is economically, the best option that we can present to secure better tenants and, sort of transition Front Street. And, we have other interest in Front Street improving. So, that's why we're presenting what we are today. It's not, to the line, a historic preservation project.
Understood. Makes sense. So, if you talk to your partners and you explain to them what happened here tonight, is there any possibility that they're willing to wait and find a picture and see what's the next steps?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the market dictates that it's hard for us to, downtown. It's not real easy to find tenants that are helping us recover our investment. We've already invested heavily in the building, so we take what we can get.
Gotcha.
And if an opportunity arises, we will take it. And another 3 years will go by or 5 years will go by with the storm windows out there.
Oh boy.
And and likely a tenant that that type of storefront is agreeable, which I would suspect all of us would suggest is not the kind of tenants that we are most in favor of in downtown. We want people that value street front exposure and the connection to the neighborhood and
Understood. So Greg, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Chair. Go ahead. You first.
No, I'm okay.
I just want to offer, if part of the overall goal is to keep these buildings viable and in use, and that in itself is sort of preservation, just something to kind of keep in mind to the matter of degrees of what we're weighing out. So just kind of ask the commission to consider or think back through. It comes down to the criteria. Does it meet the criteria for the funds to be used? And each year we've had funds, not each year, but quite often we have funds that are not expended. And the whole goal is to keep this building alive, or these buildings that are eligible within this grant area, to just kind of think about it. And we don't want to go against the mission of the commission, but it comes down to, do they meet the criteria or not? And then it's up to the commission to weigh the matter of degrees. If it was clear cut, it would be a staff decision. So it's not clear cut, and that's why it is a commission and a public hearing. So I think there's a little bit of flexibility, just something to consider when you're making a decision.
Thank you for that. Sherry?
Yes.
Okay, so I see what Greg's saying, and I hear what the owner is saying.
Mhm.
So I'm asking you, the windows, is there a way to improve the windows and still keep the integrity of the building? The historic, I mean.
That's what I think Greg was alluding to, talking about possibly, instead of a trifold situation, a bifold situation for the windows. So that, in other words, you could have something that it could open out, but it also just would have the one spot, so that it still has an upright feeling of one and two panes on the either side. That's how I would really like to see it go, because it would much more mimic what it was supposed to be. And then I would like to see what's up above that also be a, not one big piece, but a piece with an upright in the middle. So.
Is that possible, sir?
No, unfortunately, the panels get to be too big to just divide it into two.
Okay.
You know, if our intent is, and it is, to make these operable windows, I would love to have that debate on the value of operable windows. You know, as a building owner, as an architect, I am all day, every day advocating for them. And so in order to make that happen on a commercial storefront, there aren't a lot of great options going towards this bifold system, which is really three pieces. And letting them collect on one side is our best option.
Okay.
And then, you know, dividing a transom into two above a three-piece window below. I don't think I need to draw that. We can all come to the conclusion that that doesn't look right.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
So the fact is, it's looking like what you really want to see happen is something that can be open, and it just may not be, because of the weight of the material and all of that, able to do that. So I don't know, is there also, could something slide back and forth so that it's open and then slides, so that essentially comes back behind, and then kind of like a patio door situation? Because then it wouldn't be opening out, it would just be able to. Yeah, I'm trying to think about how this could maintain the look and be structurally sound and still work. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there may be an option that's possible of using sliding panels that would work at.
Okay.
As a general rule, those don't seal as well. And so we would be up against an issue of putting something in that performs potentially worse than what we're dealing with right now. And, you know, they would still be rather large panels. So there's, I would be a little concerned about that, but I guess I wouldn't be able to rule it out, not having researched that too thoroughly, but that's the rationale on why we didn't go that direction.
What do you think, Greg, about what I suggested? Would that?
I'm not an architect, you know, I'm a historian with specific specialty in historic building materials, so I really can't comment on.
Okay, I know I was looking at it as the visual, not necessarily what it was to begin with, because obviously they didn't have that technology back at the time, so.
So what is our happy medium, you guys?
I'm wondering if we need to table it. I'd love to see our chairperson come back and at least be able to say, what do we do now?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
I would second that chairperson involvement.
Yes, I third it.
I mean, it's tricky because it is, you know, by wanting to make them operable, like storefront windows aren't operable. They never have been.
No, they haven't.
But yeah, it's, you know, it's an improvement that, you know, I agree. We want to see that liveliness downtown. So it's,
Yeah, but if they wasn't operable back in the day, and we're trying to make them operable now, and then it structurally wouldn't be sound, it just seems like we're shooting ourselves in the foot. It's just, I don't know, it don't make a lot of sense. I don't know.
Greg, are you saying that the design that Kyle's proposing is not historically accurate?
No, it is not historically accurate.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm definitely saying that. I am not saying that the existing, I'm saying that we need to do some due diligence about establishing what that storefront looked like. And expect that any contemporary adjustments, changes, whatever, be done in honor, in recognition of the form, massing of the elements of those window systems.
Yeah, I guess I'm less concerned with what they actually look like originally because they have gone.
We don't know that.
We don't know
that they're gone. They may be there. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to interrupt you, Don, but what I'm trying to say is that we don't know if there is an existing 4-light store window system, 3 sets, 4 lights, which is a typical mid to late 19th century store window system, and that we need to determine whether that is an original. If it's an original system, then shame on us if we allow it to be ripped down.
Yes.
May I go ahead?
I concur with what Greg has said, because yes, when I looked at that, I'm like, I don't like the way this new proposed thing looks comparatively. I mean, it doesn't look like it would be reflective of how this building looked to begin with. I'd be very surprised if there was anything different than what it looks like. The basic, I mean, yeah, the doors may have changed and things like that, but the basic construction of the layout of the storefront, my guess was very close to what you see.
The original building was a horse hospital. Would that have still had the same type of window?
Well, that's a very good question. My recollection from reading about it is the surgeries were on the 3rd floor. And so they would have done all their surgery under skylights, something like that. So I do not know what whether it was offices or what exactly they use that 1st floor for. I know that there are horse entrances that are on the Prairie Street or Ridley Street side. I forget what street that is now. Prairie. And there are entrances for horses there. It is the kind of cast iron columns that are supporting, I'm going to assume, some kind of limestone header that is a very typical mid to late 19th century storefront design.
Mm-hmm.
Are the sills stone?
I believe so. It's been painted.
Mm-hmm.
Is the brick underneath that those sills, is that brick match in softness to the rest of the building?
Again, it's painted, but it appears to be in good shape. It's not spalling in a way that would make me think that it's particularly soft.
Okay, but you believe that it is it the same size today? And I don't know what else. Is it the same brick that's in the rest of the building? That's what I'm asking.
I don't know the answer to that. We didn't, because that's not in the scope of the project or the improvements. We didn't get into that much. I mean, we will have a better look at that when we address things from the inside, I suppose.
Yeah, I just think you may well have a 1885 storefront that's intact.
Yeah.
I don't know if this relieves anybody of their conscience, but because it's a single pane, it's not something that we would spend money restoring, given the fact that we've had previous bar tenants and would like to have restaurant, cafe type tenant in the future. That it's
Fully understand that, and but you're asking for funds from the historic preservation commission.
May I offer sort of 2 points of order, if you will? The first one's not necessarily a point of order, but one of the criteria we look at, some of it's the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, and what's listed as criterion 3 in the packet. All buildings, structures, and sites shall be recognized as products of their own times. Alterations that have no historical basis and that seek to create an earlier appearance shall be discouraged. So if part of what we're kind of stuck on is trying to recreate, it's just, there's something to kind of consider there.
That's a good point.
So thank you.
I'm not trying to recreate. I'm trying to find out if there is an 1885 storefront there. And
Right.
But Greg, how do we do that, sir? If
Examination.
there's a picture out there.
Examination of materials and examination of historic images.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to interject, the chair recused himself. I don't believe it was because of a conflict of interest. He said professional courtesy. So George is on our attorney is on the call. I don't know if Paul can or cannot come back. But that said, did we designate somebody who's running the meeting in the meantime?
No, we didn't.
I'm here. I'm just not saying anything.
Okay.
Mr. Coos is our vice chair as well.
This is our vice chair, so he's technically in charge while Paul is out of the room.
So if we want to state who's kind of running the show in the meantime, or if it's still Paul, it sounded like.
Good point.
And we, like saying, for any question, George did join us.
Yes, I am on.
So I'll add that I'm not speaking to the case, but I can certainly speak to logistics or if there's something else related to that. That's all.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, it sounds like one of the things you've been talking about, sorry to just kind of pop in, this is George, was whether to table this or not. Is that kind of one of the things that you guys seem to be talking about here?
Yes, but he didn't want, if he table it, he's saying that this might not come back before us because they might just leave it as is.
Well, and sorry to
well, that's something to consider.
And the applicant has the opportunity, they can withdraw their petition if they choose to. So, sure. if it is tabled, that's up to the applicant.
Right.
And I think, so it looks like the two things that were being discussed as to whether we wanted to try to recreate an older appearance, or whether that older appearance is still there and worth preserving. I mean, those are we can't decide these things for you guys, but I guess one is, whether, given what the applicant said, you want to table it, or whether you want to go ahead and approve the grant with the misgivings that some of the commissioners have mentioned.
Yeah, makes
It
sense.
sounds like there's not anyone who's saying they want to deny it outright. That's just from what I'm hearing.
Greg
That
does.
is correct.
I would vote no on this.
I would as well.
I'm not sure. I really want to help. However, I don't know if it's time that we're up against or.
Well, let me just pipe in here because I've recused myself because Greg and Sherry would be essentially
Yep.
voting no. We don't have a quorum to be able to say that this would pass. So
Oh,
that
okay.
sort of already tells us what needs to happen.
All right. Gotcha.
Because you're saying the numbers aren't there because you've recused yourself?
Correct.
Well, I guess that's the answer to that, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Is that accurate? How many do we have then without Mr. Shernette?
4.
4 out of 7?
You said it.
Well, wouldn't that be enough? Perhaps I'm missing something.
There would be four people who could vote, and I believe 2 people are expected to be voting against.
I'm
based
sorry.
on-
Say the last part, please. I'm sorry.
Two of the 4 have expressed their concerns about voting in favor of the grant as it's presented. That's what.
Right, but I mean, we do
Well,
have a quorum
Charlotte-
that could vote on it. Is that
yes,
the point?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So with that in mind, is there a motion?
Greg, what I'm saying is that, or George, excuse me, it would be a stalemate. You'd have 2v2.
Right. It would not pass.
I guess
So
normally, Paul, what we do, and I appreciate your input, but normally if somebody recuses themselves, they don't even get involved in any of it. We often actually, with the council, they have to leave the room and so on. So we don't want to necessarily have to do that. But my point is, why doesn't somebody should make a motion and there should be a vote? Even if it's a tie, we'll have to deal with that.
Gotcha.
It sounds like one of the motions is to table it for more information. Is that a 2v2 as well? Perhaps somebody can make a motion. Why don't we make a motion and have some votes?
I think you should make a motion to table it. And I think we're all going to vote for that.
And that's to a date certain, is that correct? That would be to the next meeting?
The next, I guess. Yeah, that would be.
That's a certain kind of motion. That's why I'm suggesting it be to a date certain. If that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be to June 17th.
June 17th is our
Okay.
next.
Am I out of turn to ask a question at this point? Is it possible to split instead of saying yes or no to the whole request? Are there elements that could be approved? And is that appropriate? I guess that's a question for George.
I think what I'm hearing is that there's some misgivings about the project that may, I mean, people certainly can consider doing it otherwise, but it sounds like we had a motion in a second. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
We had a motion to table it.
To table it to a date certain.
Right, June
In a second.
17th.
And then Kim raised whether, rather than doing that, we'd want to defeat that motion and
hasn't
consider it in parts.
We haven't had a roll call, so the motion hasn't passed. My question to Kyle.
Right.
Sorry if I'm speaking out of turn, but is it even possible, Kyle, to proceed with any portion of it if you're not going to proceed with the whole scope of the project?
I think it's likely that we have to address the main door for ADA issues and life safety questions. So, yeah, I would say that piece, but that sort of sets the tone a little bit for how the rest of the window system. I mean, it's likely that whatever path that we pursue as a building owner, that we would look at aluminum storefront. And because we have received grant funds in the past for using that material, I suspect that would be agreeable. So I would say maybe that piece.
Is
Something
that
that we
something
can
you
go
would like
forward
to pursue right now?
with. Can you say that again?
Is that something you would like to pursue right now, or would you prefer us to table it?
I would say let's table it, and we will see how things go. And my fingers are crossed that we find a tenant that's as excited about trying to make some improvements and has the patience, and we don't miss opportunities, and we can do a little of that investigation and come up with a proposal that everybody is comfortable with.
All right, so I'm going to remake my motion that we table this until the next meeting.
I second.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coos.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for all your consideration. I appreciate everybody's comments.
Kyle, I
Except
really,
for
I really
Paul's.
hope that things work out. I really want to see this project go forth because of its downtown, because it's downtown, and we want to be able to have it occupied for you. So I really hope and pray that things will work out for you.
I will say, just as an anecdote, that because I'm an architect and I have clients that are working on projects downtown, that this is helpful for me to sort of test the attitudes of everybody on the commission and where you're comfortable supporting projects and where you're not. And, I'll be able to relay that to other building owners. So thanks for all your comments.
I volunteer for, if anybody needs me to go search documents or whatever to see if I can find, if you can put me on a trail, I'll go do it. So Greg, if you know where this might be, I will volunteer to take some time and go do that.
And she's good at it.
May I suggest we move on? It seems like you still have some business, if you don't mind, and we have Mr. Charnett, I think, is back on the on the chairperson's roster for this one.
Okay, I think we can. Kyle, I want to say thank you. We appreciate your input this evening. Thank you for the petition. And it sounds like we're tabling that, and we will move forward accordingly. The next item on the agenda is BHP 1521, consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by Sherry Masters for a certificate of appropriateness for a new rear driveway and parking pad for the property located at 905 North McLean Street. This is in the Franklin Square District.
Staff is recommending in favor of the certificate of appropriateness. The driveway is in the rear of the house and is not visible to the street. It is accessible from an alley, but would not be visible. The certificate's necessary though because a building permit is necessary. So this is a little bit of a technicality. Staff is recommending in favor. We looked at the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and find that many are not applicable, but those that are met, and would recommend approval of the certificate.
All right, very good. Do we have anyone here to represent the property?
The property owner is unable to join and also unable to call in at the moment.
Okay. I have a question for City. I don't often see anything related to parking pads or driveways or curb cuts or that sort of thing as it relates to historic homes. I wasn't aware that this was under our purview.
Me either.
As I said, it's kind of a technicality because a certificate of appropriateness is required when a building permit's required. A building permit is required for driveways. Our architectural design guidelines do address historic driveways, and there are certain criteria for the preservation of those, but that would not be applicable in this case.
Okay, so if it's not a historic driveway, and this is merely a technicality, Is this something that we could talk to or revise in the process such that we wouldn't need to address these sort of things in the future?
Yeah.
I would hesitate to do that, Paul, because there is a possibility of impacting the historic plannings. So it doesn't hurt for us to take a look.
Well, or at least this would be something that the chair could approve as a write-off before it would have to go to a commission if it's something that is just not worthy of a full discussion. If it was impacting something like landscaping, I concur with that totally, Greg. We've seen that on West Washington. Or excuse me, East Washington, the other one. Shall remain nameless. So I think there's definitely something to be considered for that. Having said that, if it's not really under our purview, but we're providing something that is merely lip service to the project, I'm not sure that it's worth the effort that it takes from the homeowner. So I'm not trying to say that this isn't something worthy, but something that probably we could streamline in process.
Why doesn't staff have a look at that then? We'll look at that, take your points as, well taken, and we'll see if we can, how that fits under the ordinances and the requirements and so on. And we can get back to you on that next month.
I'd certainly appreciate.
I understand what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense.
In lieu of that, I would move that we accept the proposal and issue the.
I'm going to second that one.
appropriateness.
Yeah, I agree. That's
Okay, we'll have a vote then, please.
this standing right now.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Shurnett.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you very, very much. And let's jump back now to BHP 07-21.
Yeah. Okay.
Julie has had time to explore all of her options.
I haven't had time to feed my child or myself, but
Same girl, same.
hey, I know we're all in that boat. I did look. In fact, we even called Menards. I've looked at Menards, Lowe's, and Home Depot's sites. Lowe's and Home Depot don't have the selection and are out of my price range, like way out. Menards, I don't have a lot of options here, folks, is what this is coming down to. So I looked, if I can, there's something called Atlas Storemaster Slate Hearthstone, impact resistant, that's a very nice looking slate style shingle, but they can't get it in until July. And it's $10 more per bundle, which I could try to absorb that extra cost. I could try. It would end up being about $1,200 more. But they can't get it in until July. Every place else I looked is significantly more, and they don't even have that style. They have those just 3-tab square, look kind of like a brick, flat shingle that just is, I'm sorry, it's just really unattractive. And to me does not look like slate. They're like shaped like this. So I don't know, Mr. Charnett, you seem to have better luck finding things than I do, but we looked and looked and
yeah, I just pulled up from Home Depot a few different options. What you're looking for is a high definition shingle or a laminate shingle. Those are the generic terms for it. Right. And so as you look for some of these things, yeah, those options are more expensive than your wood shake look because there are multiple layers to them in order to get that kind of dissonant sort of shadow line that you had. So in any case, I just pulled up a few things from like Home Depot. I couldn't tell you if they have them in stock. You've already done some homework on there that there's not a chance I could have done right now. So I don't know.
Most of them are, yeah, I didn't find a lot in stock that would be the type that you're wanting. In fact, I didn't find, I did not call Home Depot and Lowe's because I saw that the prices were so much higher.
Right.
That it's just, it's just not an option for me.
What was the name of the shingle that you were proposing?
Well, it's not until July though. I can't get it until July. It's Atlas Storm Master Slate Hearthstone Impact Resistant Shingle. I can give you the SKU if that's easier.
I pulled it up. Got it.
Okay. That's at Menards. And I didn't even see those available, I don't think, at Lowe's or Home Depot.
I think it's one of those things where Lowe's carries a certain brand, Menards carries a certain brand. They don't want you price shopping if they can avoid it.
Right. Well, well, I mean, I looked up shingles. I looked up slate shingles, and I didn't find a lot at Home Depot or Lowe's.
So Julie, I have a question. I don't have everything in front of me, so you're obviously not putting these up yourself. You're having a roofing company do it, right?
Yeah, in fact, it's just one guy. He's not a roofing company.
So I would talk to him and see, sometimes because he's a roofer, he has options that you and I and everybody else that isn't in this as a business would not have. So in other words, sources, things like that he could get. He could probably get a price for them cheaper than you and I could get them too, because he's,
Exactly. Yep.
I'd be looking for his guidance on this, I think.
Whether he's looking through RP or whether he's looking through Alexander Lumber or various sort of things.
Yeah.
I think we're getting back to the point here where are we creating an onerous requirement on Ms. Dawson? And that's sort of the challenge of all of this. She's wanting to replace her roof. She wants it to look nice.
Right.
And it needs to function, of course. But we are also looking and saying that wood shake is not appropriate. So in circling back around, I think the idea was that we didn't want to table this because it's a pressing issue in terms of the economic climate, but also because she needs to simply get a new roof put on soon.
Right.
And as such, I think that we need to either have a reasonable expectation for Ms. Dawson and something that she can meet, in such that we could either grant myself or Greg or somebody some kind of power to approve some sort of shingle that would be visually appropriate and meet the criteria that we had for a slate look, or we need to relax the requirement of the wood shake.
I would propose that we nominate some member of our commission, whether it be you, Paul, or Greg, or someone else, to act for us to help her with that.
So what you'd be saying, in a way, is that you want to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness, provided that it's satisfactory to a designated person from the commission. And if that is what the motion is, I would say that's kind of a bit to put on one person. I don't know how people feel in terms of it being something they're comfortable with.
Could it be a committee then instead of just
it's better. It's maybe better than denying it from her point of view, I suppose.
I would suggest that what we do is we ask the owner to make a good faith effort to see if she can't acquire the shingle in the time span amenable to her roofer, and should that not be possible, that the roofing material that is in stock that she which has been approved for other structures by predecessor commissions, be accepted. So it's simple. We're asking for a good faith effort, and we'll take your word for it, Ms. Dawson, that it either worked out or it didn't work out.
Well, and that is indeed the purpose of the hardship. that if it creates, if we're putting an onerous requirement on there that simply can't be met, then there is an appeal process that would go along with that. I think what we're doing here is simplifying that for the sake of time, by saying, can you show us that you've made a good faith effort to look at some of these alternative options? If these are not available, then we can move forward accordingly. Am I understanding that correct, Greg?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So is that like a motion to approve the certificate with the condition that a good faith effort be made and
Yes.
along the lines that you suggested, Mr. Coos?
Yes.
Okay. And do we, are we going to look for evidence of that? You sounded like you wanted her to show something to someone, or do we just ask that that be done as a part of the condition?
I agree with you, George, that it's too much to put on a single commission member to determine that course of action. So a good faith effort is a good faith effort on the part of that property owner.
Well, there will still be someone that needs to review it just visually. If we're talking about this kind of criteria, somebody's still going to need to say, you made the good faith effort.
Okay.
So.
Well, that could be someone from the commission, or it could be a judgment by staff, I suppose. Right? I'm just kicking around thoughts with you guys.
George, there was earlier in the meeting, the commission voted to approve a certificate of appropriateness with a condition for this case, with the condition that there were amendments to the application where the shingle would represent slate and have some kind of the same like style size. Does the commission need to rescind that previously approved certificate of appropriateness and kind of amend and do a new motion?
No, I don't believe we rescinded it.
It's not been rescinded yet. I'm asking legal for clarification on whether or not that's necessary, since there was one previously approved for this case.
Previously approved for this case?
Yes, at the meeting tonight.
Well, that's up to the commission, right?
I think this would simply be a modification. If it could be made so, Ms. Dawson's still on the line. It's not as though we've made it unclear to anyone in this process what we're trying to do. So if anybody were to look back, they would clearly understand where we're coming from. So I think we can make a reasonable judgment here that this is simply a modification of the previous move.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
May we hear the motion? I know when we put together these minutes, we certainly want to know what the motion that's being voted on states.
Well, I guess the question that we need to determine, I move that the homeowner do their due diligence to determine whether a slate-like material is possible to acquire at the price range that they've been able to arrange financing for, can be installed, and that determination, that effort be confirmed with either staff or Mr. Sharnett.
And when we say slate-like, you mean a slate-like look, not
No.
necessarily a slate-like material.
No, just look, yeah.
And this would also be that it's approved on this condition and rescinding any previous motions along the line so that it supersedes those.
It supersedes those approvals. However, I don't know that it would totally rescind everything. We're still building upon the previous.
Right, you're kind of adding a condition.
Right.
Yeah.
That there be a good faith effort as determined by Mr. Charnett or staff.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Do we still have a second for Ms. Giselle?
Yes.
Okay, so can we please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes,
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
and Chairperson Sharnett.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Dawson, for your patience this evening. Thank you for your efforts in making this a reality. We'll expect to hear something from you soon, and we will do our best to respond as quickly as we can regarding the same.
And if I could just clarify, what is it who would like to hear from me and what is it you'd like to hear? I'm not sure I'm clear on what exactly I'm supposed to do now. I'm supposed to come up with an accounting of my efforts.
So the idea is that you look into what shingles you can afford, what shingles make sense, or what roofing material you can get that's going to have that asphalt slate look. Then you would provide that information back through the city, and the city then can distribute it to themselves or to me, and we would get back with you saying this makes sense.
Okay. Thank you very much.
good luck.
Thanks.
For my clarification, was that the motion on her grant or was that the certificate of appropriateness?
Certificate of appropriateness. The grant was approved unconditionally.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I missed that.
Okay, onward. Thank you very much. All right, we are now moving on to the matter of old business, which the item here is an update on National Preservation Month activities.
We just very briefly, staff just wanted to say that the subcommittee had been working very hard to put the banners up, recognizing our Heritage Award winners, and those are up at the museum. They've been up for the month of May. Also, downtown helped promote National Preservation Month during the First Friday event, and Commissioner Peters has been working on a public outreach for a farmers market event as well. I don't know if you have an update, Dawn.
We really haven't done much on that. The museum's gonna have a table. I'm gonna be there. I think Ms. Grayling will be there. The more the merrier. I did see promotion from the museum on the event and stating that some of us would be there to share historic preservation. We had talked about some tchotchke type things, and I don't think we ever moved forward with that. But I think the museum was going to have some coloring pages or something. So,
What's the date on that we're going to do that?
The 29th.
29. Okay. When is it going to start?
I want to say 9 a.m. I will get back to you on that.
Okay, good.
Farmers market opens at, I believe it's 7:30.
Okay.
I think the table was.
The table might be a little bit later, but the market will be open early.
I do want to note that the Dimmits Grove Association is quite pleased with the banners. Very proud of the recognition. Very important to them. They saw it as a recognition that was meaningful, and they liked the fact that it was very, very publicly shared.
Yeah.
That was our whole goal. Thank you.
The time is 9 to 11, and they said they could extend it to noon if we want to stick around.
Good. So I have a little bit of frustration, and I'm just going to tell you what I feel like here. I did send the final copy for the website April 15th. I checked today, we still have a dead link on the website for our awards. So there is nothing under the 2020 awards.
What?
It's not there. So I'm kind of glad the QR codes did not happen, as they would have linked to nothing. And I can only imagine the disappointment that the award winners would get when they went to the website, as I told them to go check out what was there.
Yeah.
Because we need to get something filled in there, folks.
I wish you had said something to me. I would have pushed.
Well, I've set it in and I don't know what else I could do. I think it just, we need to get the technical people to make this a priority. So that's, I'm not
I
trying
think staff will do that. That makes sense.
I
know,
make
the best
the
you can.
QR code to the main grant page, so you can go to that page, but the link is still dead. Like I also checked. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll convey that to folks.
I apologize for being late to this meeting. My invitation was apparently sent to my spam, which has never happened before. And I mean, I finally went, oh my God, if it was sent. So I start to just comb through everything and finally found it. And it was like, I wanted to shoot myself. So I apologize. I was sitting here ready.
Don't worry, I was going through the same thing at a quarter till, and I was calling, trying to get the link. So I understand.
Yeah. Did anybody else's go to the spam? I mean, I've never had that happen.
Well, I don't know if mine went to the spam, but I know I didn't see it. When I do a search, mine searches in spam and everything, so I didn't get the link. Period.
Great. Technology sucks. I think we've just figured that out. Anyway, okay. But yes, the banners turned out wonderfully. I'm really with them. So Meltdown Creative, that's who did them.
They are awesome.
They are.
They did all my stuff for me. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, I would like to say I see the banners every day from across the street, so I can read them, and wanted to say I appreciate all the efforts that have gone into that, and certainly the efforts this month. This is our month, and I think we are ever so much more every year taking that much more advantage of the opportunity. So I'm excited to see what happens next Saturday. I even half had a mind to come and stand around and give the pseudo architectural tours, where I make up history and make Greg angry with me in the process.
I appreciate Greg for giving us that feedback from Demis Grow, because that was so wonderful to hear that.
Yeah, I know they're really pleased over there. I've talked to Brad and he was very excited. So
that is so good. So our efforts went.
They were noticed. They were noticed.
Ralph, thank you. That's what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it, Greg. Thank you.
Well, when we put them up, Katie helped us. Katie Simpson helped us. My husband and I and Katie were there. And she said, these look so good. I think even if we do go back to having a meet and greet in person with a meeting with, Old House Society and Town of Millerville and all of that, we still need to do the banners because they're such a nice public thing.
Yeah. I agree, Katie. I agree. I agree.
Okay, well, very good. I will move on. Do we have any new business this evening? Seeing none, I will move on to the word we've been waiting for. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make the motion.
Okay. This has been quite a long one. Wanted to say thank you all very much for the time that you devote to the commission. It is very much appreciated. Your input is very appreciated. Let's all talk at once while Katie gives us a roll call request.
Who is the second on the adjournment?
I second.
Sherry. It was Dawn and then Sherry. I saw that on my screen.
Sorry, I didn't know.
It was
I didn't know
close.
that.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Chisel,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
You had to think about it.
No, at the risk of sounding negative. Yes.
Wow.
No, thank you all very much.
Staff.
Have a wonderful month.
Thank you, everyone.
Well,
Thanks,
you.
staff.
Have a good evening.
Utah.
Be well, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.